Welcome back to Two Coaches and One Couch. And today's our fourth episode, and it's on active listening. My name is Kathy O'Reilly, coaching, and
I'm Siobhan Walsh. I'm a recovery coach, and welcome back to episode 4.
I hope you're enjoying it out there. And I hope that you'll pass the word around and get everybody to
Yeah,
join on our Two Coaches, One Couch weekly episodes. And I have to say before we start that if you've got a dilemma and you're stuck with it and you're thinking, I don't know where to go with this, you can email us. We'll have a read of it and we'll both come back with what we think as coaches. Maybe just have another, as I say, outside look at what you feel is just, you're stuck. Anyway, we're just leaving that there for 26. So you can do that with us too. And we'd love to hear from you. We would love to hear from you, wouldn't we, Siobhan?
absolutely.
Yeah, we would,
Absolutely.
of course we
Anything's
would.
welcome. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So we'll kick off active listening. Well, I suppose the first thing we'll ask really is what is active listening when it's not happening? So let's look at what it's not. Active listening and then not listening. So what's the difference between the two, Siobhan?
Honestly, I'm going to be honest with you, Kathy, now. And I think I said this to you already. I have never learned a framework of active listening. And when I hear that, it feels quite logical. And I know many coaches, many therapists, many educators, let's say, would learn a framework in order to, help other people and be more aware of themselves in active listening. But I suppose from where I'm coming from in today, let's say, is more of how I've learned myself active listening through more of an internal dialogue that's been able to help me understand my own thoughts, and from doing that create space then to listen to others without projecting my experiences whilst with another human being. Does that make sense?
Of course it does, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of, I don't have like a set framework that this is what you should do. It's just words, like they're words, they can be sounds. It's what's going on in order to make someone else feel heard and supported or seen whilst in conversation with another person. So I come from more of the awareness and presence within myself in order to have the space
Mm-hmm.
to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
I just want to put that out there because I don't have like the set framework. This is what you do, and this is what you. Like, that's just not how I operate. So I'm going to put it back to you. What is it not? What's active listening
Well,
not?
what it's not, I suppose, I just throw it in here that before I did my training and I did the whole piece around the framework, as you call it, active listening.
Mm,
I mean, when you get into a situation, now this can happen anytime to all of us, and it still happens to me. I mean, I work as a coach, you work as a coach, so in the room you're going to be actively listening. But in your general life, what happens is you meet somebody, and while they're talking, you're thinking of the answer that you're going to give. While they're speaking about their experience to you, you're thinking about how you can answer them and make it's almost like it becomes your story, and you jump in to make it all about you.
mm,
That's really what active listening is not. That's the opposite to active listening. So, really, it's about knowing the difference between the two. And the difference between the two is if you've been watching our podcast, we have looked at awareness, we have looked at the body and how the body's responding. And I know that at times it can be all very you just react because you just happen you're just up to 90 yourself and you haven't got time to be thinking about all this. But if you practice it, it really does start making life a lot easier for yourself because in actual fact, when you're not actively listening, your body is in a state of all the time sort of being in place of reacting. You're not responding well, you're just reacting to what's being said to you.
mm,
Active listening, the difference is you're really staying with what the person is saying. And at the end of the day, like it's about making space for that because sometimes people come to you and they've got something to say, whether that be in a work situation or whether that be in a relationship with your partner or whether that be in a family member that comes to you. And sometimes we're so hectic and so busy ourselves that we can't actually get into this space at all. So it's important then to acknowledge that you need to say in that moment, I would love to spend time with you and hearing this, but can we just sit for a minute and plan this? Even if you don't say it, you've got to think that way because active listening is when you're making space to hear.
mm,
It's a different thing. Like you're not just jumping in and reacting to everything they're saying. You're actually responding because you're holding it and listening and hearing.
mm.
Now, the framework of the training that I've done, and I can share it really quickly, and it might help somebody to start doing active listening. We would have sat in what they call triads. That's 3 people together. So I would have sat with you, Siobhan, say, for example, you would have spoken to me, I would have responded back to you, and the other person would have documented what they'd seen and heard.
Right.
So in that space, the person that was actually the observer would have been, they had to be so tuned into your body language, your tone of voice, what happened to you when you were speaking, you're telling your story, where were the dips, it just, you got excited, you got animated, what was going on there. So that person in the third key was really the person that actually documented what they saw and they heard.
So they
with
observe.
these 2 people in dialogue. So that's really a brief of what a framework of active listening looks like. But in reality, what does it feel like for the person? What do you think, Siobhan?
So when you're in conversation, I'm just going to listen in conversation with another person, being present with them. You're exactly right. It's holding space and actually giving them the space that they need to brain dump, to offload on what is going on for them. But what I see happening most of the time is we all have our internal thoughts, our own experiences, our own opinions, and we're very quick to jump in because you might be able to relate. But when you're able just to, like, people love to fill a silence, they don't like silence, but it's the most important when you're in conversation with someone because it allows them the space that they just need to share what is going on in their world. And when you allow that space, it creates a relational practice, it creates connection, gives someone the ability to trust another person because, and it's very normal for people to be like, oh, everything's going to be fine. We want to save and we want to reassure that person in the moment. But what that person might need is just to get it all off their chest and allow them then to maybe come up with their own solutions or help them go into it a bit more, but not the need to save them and not bring it, oh, I had an experience like that. It's how we connect with one another and it's natural. But when someone really needs just to talk, it's allowing them that space and that safety in order for them to just share.
That's beautifully put. And really, I think, isn't it the greatest gift that you can give somebody? Is not to be the fixer in that moment, because in relationships, you want somebody to be happy. And the immediate part of you goes, I know what that feels like. Yeah. And this is what I did. This is what you could do. Yeah. It's the fixer part of us that comes into this. And particularly, I think, in relationships with family members and children, this is what we spoke about before. And it's kind of damages the connection, doesn't it? Do you think it damages the connection?
I would agree with you. I think it does. And I think, if in a family dynamic, we have, say a parent, they'd be like, oh, it's going to be fine, or you should do that and you need to do that. And then that's like it's creating more pressure. And that's not what you might have needed. You might have just needed to be like, I've had a really bad day at school, or well, you should go now into the teacher and tell them, that we're so quick to give their opinion because they might have had a past experience that something similar might have happened, but to be able to be like, how do you feel, or what does that feel like, and like, tell me what's going on for you, as opposed to jumping in because they're protective or they want you to feel okay ultimately, but how they go around that, it can be damaging because then you're like, oh God, I need to do this now, and that's not what I'm coming from. I feel a bit sad, or I feel really hurt by this, or whatever is going on. But it's allowing that space to sit. Okay, tell me how that feels for you. How, and coming from curiosity rather from judgment. I think that's really important. Coming from a curious questioning as opposed to, you need to do this, you should be doing this. And, really kind of containing that space for someone to be like, oh, thank you. Even if there's no answer, even if there's no conclusion, but just, oh, I feel great that I've just been able to be heard.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And you've explained it so, so well, in that sometimes it's just, in the room, to be honest about it, I sometimes find people just come and they need to say it.
Mm,
because it's in there. It needs to be said. It needs to be thrown out onto the floor
mm,
between two people that trust each other. This is it. Can I just say it?
mm,
And as you said, there is no answer. The answers come maybe later as they sometimes when you've had a conversation with somebody and they need to be heard, and
mm,
there's a curiosity, which is a very big word here, the
mm,
curiosity of, and then it's not that you want to be a trained listener, you want to be a therapist or a coach, but just ask the person the simple question: is that right? Are you okay with that? How does that feel for you?
mm.
They're sort of open-ended questions.
Yeah.
They're just open-ended questions that makes the person feel they have seen me, they have heard me, they didn't judge,
Mm,
didn't fix. It's just a place to feel that I'm okay, that
mm,
it's that I've shared it. It doesn't feel as tight in the system,
mm,
and that's really what it's all about. Then the question I'd like to ask here really is, what about when you're up to 90 yourself and that person needs you to do this for them? Like, this is the question really, because I mean, we're coming into busier times in the year now. Lots of people doing lots of different things.
mm,
In all times in our lives, we get busy. So when somebody needs you and you are just frazzled yourself, how do you get to yourself to a place in your own body and in your own awareness and in your own mindfulness to be that available listener or that available person?
mm. Yeah. And like you say, people are always busy. People have got their, and I think that's it. Everyone's got their own lives, like their own inner world, their own experiences, their own thoughts.
Mm.
Life is life. And I suppose to answer that, how best I can see it would be when you are regulated and if you cannot hold space for someone, like if you are not, if you've got a million things to do and
Mhm.
someone catches you off guard, just how I would try. I mean, not always successfully. I would give me a minute, but like it could be, I'm actually really, I'm not in a place to hold space for you right now. Can I give you a call in half an hour? And
Mm.
then, so being able to be aware of yourself and be like, I'm not no use to anyone right now. I'm not even able to listen to someone because I've got so much going on in my own self that I can't
Mm.
hold that space. So I suppose being self-aware and knowing your own regulation that, okay,
Mm.
I'm not able to be of service right now to anyone because I've got 1,000 million things to do. So being able to assure them that I am totally here for you. I can give you a call in half an hour. Give me a ring. I'll drop depending on where you're at, if you're able to drop everything for even 5 minutes could help somebody. But knowing yourself and how you can hold that space. Is that making sense?
It is. And I suppose,
I've
again,
probably
I'm
gone
going to
off
share
guard.
that if somebody came to me and they were bubbling with something, and
Mm,
I was actually myself bubbling over a little bit too,
yeah.
I would have to say that I probably would listen to the sketch of the story for a minute and just say, I'm really hearing you, but at the moment, I'm up to there myself. Can we just sit with this for a minute and we'll go again? Because sometimes it's about communication. It's about being able to put the words behind the feeling and
Mm,
saying, I really want this for you to be able to be with me right now in that moment in your head, even saying it,
mm,
just to say, like, just give me the brief of it. I was out last night, met this guy, can't believe it. He's actually ghosted me. I don't believe it. Somebody could be actually very upset at work with a story like that,
yeah.
you know. And even just to say, gosh, and just to stop for a minute and then say, we'll have a chat about this later. I'd love to hear more.
Mm,
It's about allowing the space to stay open
yeah. And not closing it and not
and not
fixing it.
closing it down. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a thought again. This has gone out of my mind.
Hmm.
If someone listening now was thinking, "Oh God, I don't even know how to start this. I don't
Hmm.
know." Like it, because even sometimes, like I said at the very start, sometimes can sound quite logical. Yet we're with people all the time, right? So if
Hmm.
you feel yourself cutting into conversations when you're speaking, or you know, really listening to the words, because sometimes it's just sound. Sometimes if you really listen to what someone's saying, like how would you advise someone starting off to become more aware of being aware of listening, if that makes sense. Like,
Look, I just think that it's a simple fact. This is not a kind of a Kathy make-up story. It's a fact that, in actual fact, it's a fact that like 80% of our communication, or I think it might even go up as far as 90, is nonverbal.
mm,
It's not the words, it's the tone of voice. If somebody is sad, or somebody's low, or somebody's high, or somebody is anxious, you
Mm,
can hear that before they open their mouths. Their bodies will tell you everything. And you get so tuned into this. If you
mhm,
start off by just, first of all, becoming so aware of the other person. I mean, in all that I do, I'm actually a very shy person, I'll be
mm,
honest. Sometimes when I meet people in the past, they would pick me up as being, she's a bit distant. It would be just that I feel shy. So, and I just feel, I don't know if I actually fit in here. So I'm trying to maneuver myself into the situation.
mm,
So when you're becoming more of a listener and a person that's using the skill of listening, you have to become aware of the other person's body language
yeah.
and not to judge, oh, she's a bit off. Ugh. You know, maybe that person is just feeling like, am I all right here? Am I safe here?
Mhm,
Can I talk here? So it's about watching what other people are without, and I think you said it earlier on beautifully, no judgment.
mm.
Not
No
to come at it
judgment.
like, yeah, right, yeah.
Mm,
And that's what happens, you see. Sometimes we kind of prejudge, that like, yeah, I think of a fair idea. You don't have a fair idea. You could be very wrong. You could be way
mm,
off the mark,
mm,
way, way, way off the mark. So, I mean, sometimes to go in with the curiosity, non-judgmental, and not just to listen to the words, but listen to the tone and the body language, and
mm,
to draw them in a little bit closer to you, making them feel safe, that they can be seen and heard by you without a
mm.
judgment.
Yeah. And I love what you said there about like some words don't even need to be spoken because you can feel it.
You can feel it.
You can walk into a room and think, something is off in here, or
Hmm.
something feels great. And then with that feeling, let's say energetically, you can relax and be like, I feel like I can really open up to this person because there's a no word spoken, but you can just feel at ease. Their body language is welcoming. They might smile. Like it's all these non-verbal cues, like you say, that really take way more into account than not even the words coming out of anyone's mouth. Because we can all speak, everyone can speak, but it's the subtleties that come underneath that allow better listening in the long run, if that makes sense. I have to stop
And it's
saying if that
also
makes sense.
important here to mention that these are cues we have learned from the day that we were able to get, once we became anyway verbal in communication at the age of 2.5, 3 years old. We've started very, very young to
Mm,
read things. This is something that you all have, that I have in abundance, we have in abundance. It's about tapping into
mm,
that intuitive part of you that says, it's about your intuition here. Again, we're going to go into all that, a bit more. But for today, you're asking, like, what would you do as a person for the very first time that's actually going to say, I'm going to actively listen? Those two words, actively listen. Step into your intuition. What's happening to you, to the other person? And to relax the body and self regulate the nervous system so that you're at least in a good place yourself, that you're breathing deeply and you're relaxed.
mm.
And then the rest kind of comes naturally.
Yeah, it does. It does. And like you said, when we're younger, like children just obviously they don't have words, so they begin to learn through, tone of voice, sounds, people around them, they co-regulate. So they have a sense of what's going on, even without any words being spoken. And then they say things as there is. So I want that. I don't want to go here. They say it exactly as they see fit, right? And then until their environment, their conditioning, their parents, their teachers, the schools, they slowly start to close off and find it hard to hear that internal voice because they've might, like I remember, and that's why I said initially at the start, like I've had to really work with that internal dialogue in order to know that's not me speaking. Now, this sounds a bit out there and a bit wacky, but like when you're able to, that was something that a teacher said many years ago, but I'm holding that somewhere, so
Yes.
really getting clear on your internal dialogue. And I've gone off on a tangent now. This is what happens to me. But being able to understand that more and, like you say, your intuition of knowing, it's just a knowing, allows you then to have that space for another person because you're not coming in with your own thoughts. You're not coming in with your own opinions and, oh, that happened to me. Sure, we can all relate to things. I mean, that's being human. We connect by that too. But it's when someone is in need, it's allowing that space to not allow those thoughts or those internal things to take over. in that moment with another person.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I
I've gone
suppose
off in an
what I'm
actual
really
tangent.
hearing you saying here really is
Mm,
this now, and this is what's coming up for me, and I'm going to share this, is that you're saying that there's a childlike quality to meeting somebody in that space of being a good listener, isn't there? Active listening. It's
mm,
a childlike quality because sometimes the internal dialogue, and I'm going to say this, is historical.
mm,
It's historical. So it can be something that happened to you way back there and you're thinking, oh, I have it now. Oh, yeah, I got that. Whereas in actual fact, if you take a childlike quality that just says it as it is, and they're open to receiving, you
mm.
know, I'll give you an example. I remember once upon a time, many years ago, I was doing part of my training. This was in psychotherapy now. And I was a hugely successful girl in the class,
Oh,
but I
well
was
done.
a shit show when it came to the exams. I
Right.
was really bad. But I never liked school. I didn't get on great in school. And we've mentioned all this before. And I remember going into the canteen for our coffee break. And one of the lecturers walked up to me in her innocence. I'm sure the woman is lovely. She didn't mean it. And she said, if you hand in another assignment like the last one, you're gone. And I remember thinking, huh? And I just remember now I was at that moment, I was in a time machine right back there to the kid in the class that couldn't get it right. So it really was quite damaging. She didn't mean anything by it. But what I'm saying is that historically, I was in pain from my experience at school. And
Mm,
when she said that to me, I was triggered back into that moment as if I was still that kid in the class. So I suppose the point, the words we use, I mean, if she had approached me in a different way and said, let me help you. How can I help you to resolve this? But she literally threw me under the bus.
yeah.
So isn't it amazing the words, how we interconnect, how we feel with people, what we say? It's so powerful and so damaging.
Yeah. And how something lands with you. Like
Yeah,
you could be in a conversation with somebody and say something and people get so defensive, but that
yeah,
is not what they might have meant. But because from a past experience, or here we go again, here we go again, they're at me, they're at me. And it's like that's not what's actually playing out, but it's because you're not listening is the truth. You're fixating on, oh, this is familiar. I've been in this before and I'm going to attack now. But the other
attack is the best
person
form of defense.
yeah, but the other person might just be trying to communicate something very simple, and that's why it's really important to have that understanding of your own self and able in order to be able then to be like, okay, I'm not liking this, but I'm going to listen because I'm not too sure yet.
Yeah,
And that's not easy because we all, I
yeah.
always say we're human, but it's becoming
Well,
aware.
Siobhan, it is so true. It's not easy. And as they say, the old saying, practice makes perfect, makes
Mm,
permanent.
mm,
So you have to practice this.
yeah,
It's like the awareness, the self-regulation that we've looked at, active listening today.
mm,
These are all great skills.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, life happens and we're human first.
yeah.
And sometimes we just have to say, let's try again. Do you know
Yeah.
that's the way it is?
True. And I also think as well, like we can become so obsessed with, oh, I need to learn this now, I need to practice this now.
Mm,
We're human. We communicate, like you say, even without words. So for anyone listening out there thinking, oh God, I need to become a better listener. This is not what, for me, this is not what this is about. It's just becoming aware if you are
mm.
in conflict or if you may have difficulty communicating something, maybe at work, you want to ask for a pay rise, you want to do something that's quite scary, finding the words in order to go ahead and do those things. It's not about perfectionism here and, oh God, I'm a shit listener. No, it's about
Yeah,
becoming more aware of your own state. And then if you have a friend or in a relationship, this is how we are as humans, we're constantly in connection with other people. Being able to hold that space when someone comes to you, or if you need something, having the words, having the right state to be able to communicate that more effectively. This is not about like, oh God, I need a notebook now of how to active listening because that's just not this at all,
no, it's not. I mean, look, in the work that we'll say that we do, this is the work we do. I'm just sharing this. That when somebody comes to me or somebody comes to you, we have our clients. And in that space, you are really opening the door for the space to be heard, seen, non it's that's life, that's the work.
Mm,
But in real life, if you can only practice some of this, it definitely helps a
mm,
lot.
It really does. It's
There
beautiful.
is no perfect way.
No, there's no, and I think that's like even going back to school, like you said it there, you didn't like school, you didn't stuff is held in you that you still get, comes up now.
Triggered.
And yeah, there's not one way that, and I always say it, and with everyone I work with, it's like one way might work for you, one way might not, and that's why you get into that relational part with each other, the trust, the safety, and you figure out. So that's also a part of like listening and being curious to the other person because I mean, I was the same in school. How can you expect 30 people to understand the same thing? To
That's
me,
right.
that is absolutely insane to think that that's even possible in the first place. But like, it's not. It's just not. So being able to have your own way with it too, people
Mm.
like silence is the best thing ever, but people don't like silence. They're like, oh, this is really awkward now. But if you can be in silence with another person and not feel that, it's the most beautiful thing ever
Oh, 100%.
because there's no need to fill because you're secure in that moment with one another or in that group or wherever you are that you know you don't need to and you see people filling that space all of the time and that's actually for more of an insecurity rather than a place of peace.
Absolutely, 100%,
I've
Siobhan.
probably gone off on a massive ramble.
No,
This
you're
is
not,
fun.
because you know what? It's so true. I mean, to learn to be okay with not having to fill the void.
Mm,
You don't have to keep filling the void. The void
mm,
sometimes is where the best stuff happens
mm.
in the moment of just being in a place where you don't have to all the time come up with answers, fix. I know it's another podcast actually. That one is.
It is, I know, yeah. And even the whole inner dialogue and
It is,
your own knowing and stuff like that, and your intuition, as you said before, which we all have.
which we all
Um,
have. Anyway, we've come to the end of
so
our
have we come?
podcast, Siobhan.
I love how we're getting better at our timing, Kathy.
We're getting good now, yeah. Well, I
We're
mean, look, do
getting
you know
good.
what? We don't want to bore people out there either,
I
because
know.
we could talk forever and ever at,
I
at
know.
at length about stuff. But there's enough information there today, isn't there? Really about
There is.
active listening.
Yeah.
And again, I want to say it. Please, if you're out there and you've got something that's holding you, or you feel you'd like to look at, send us an email either
Mm,
to Siobhan or to myself.
yeah.
You'll find all our information in the link, and you can just throw it in there and let us look at it and see what we can come back with. And you'd be surprised, it might help a little bit. And if it doesn't, and this is all absolutely anonymously, if it may not help you on the day, but your story might be similar to somebody else's,
Mm,
and they might gain from it.
mm. Beautifully said, Kathy.
You
Yeah,
know.
drop an email, ask a question, like anything. We're humans. We're
Hmm.
all figuring it out, as I always say to everyone I work with. No one's got it perfectly. There's no such thing. So ask a question. If you're looking to work through anything, drop it in there and we can discuss it and how
Of
we
course we
might
can.
might work through that
100%.
ourselves. So it's Christmas time, mistletoe.
Merriment and wine.
How is it
It'll be
Christmas
great
these
fun. It'll be
days?
great crack. And you know what I often say about Christmas? There's so much commotion and so much sort of expectation around Christmas. And the most beautiful part of it all is when all the shopping is in and Christmas Day arrives and everybody's together. And then
Mm,
to be an active listener, self aware, self regulated, you have it all worked out.
you have it all worked out. I love Christmas Eve when it's dark and
I
you've got the
know.
fire lighting
And to
if you
light a
have
few
that.
candles,
See
like
the
it's just
luxury.
beautiful, isn't it?
Oh, it's just gorgeous. And
It
you're
is.
freezing and it's just, yeah. So
Yeah.
listen, thank you everybody again for following us and for listening. And again, if you have any questions, and have a wonderful Christmas and
A wonderful Christmas
yeah, yeah. And we will see you next week
next
for
week.
episode 5. We're going to do reflections. Did we
Mm.
say? Should we can come to
Yes,
that next week? We
yes.
don't have to decide
Siobhan,
fully.
this is your gig now. This is your gig next week. You love this.
Reflections. I love a
And
bit of
I'm going to be
reflection.
learning from you, because do you know what? We do sometimes. I'm not going to give any more away. It'll
Yeah,
be great.
yeah. Listen, Kathy, thank you so much.
All
And thank
right.
you, everyone. And we'll see you next week.
And happy Christmas. Talk to you
Happy
soon.
Christmas.